into this conversation. I'm Coptic Orthodox. Our Christmas technically isn't for another couple of days because we have a delayed calendar. We're using the old
Ooh.
calendar system.
Wait,
Even though
you
it's not
mean the
technically
actual magic date hasn't happened yet?
the magic date hasn't happened yet. And even though the magic date hasn't happened yet, I haven't said this to a single person that wished me Merry Christmas. Oh wait, it's only for another week.
That date, right? That everybody's always obsessed with the date. Now, class, I want you to look at the screen and tell me where Christmas is on this picture. Because one of the things that we imagine, I think we take for granted a lot of chronology and a lot of chronological reckoning, and I pretty much guarantee that absolutely everybody I've seen on the internet arguing about whether or not Christmas should fall on December 25th has zero idea how to calculate it according to the calendars that were used until, well, modernity. This is a medieval calendar. And I challenge absolutely anybody watching this stream to find Christmas on it.
I can't.
Well, mainly because they forgot to fill it in, right? And what's funny about it is, they left out the rubric, so it's like they should have gone back, probably written it in gold. But we have a date for the Vigilia Domini, and then the date for the octave, the Sunday within the octave, and we have the date for Saint Stephen and the date for the Holy Innocents. But the Nativity of the Lord isn't written in. But on the other hand, I'm certain nobody, unless you've been trained in medieval, calendars and such, can read this calendar because it has a number. It's a perpetual calendar, right? Medieval calendars in prayer books are meant to be used every year. So you have to have this very elaborate system of cycles of years according to when Sunday falls each year, when Easter falls each year, when, blah, 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 blah. The next thing I'm going to show you is an Easter table. Yeah, go for it. It's a good thing I'm sick, and so I can't get really angry because then I'll lose my voice completely. But for goodness sake, you guys who are arguing perpetually about how stupid medieval Christians were about the date on which they calculated Christmas could not find Easter ever. I guarantee you do not know how to find Easter on this calendar. And until you can, I don't want to hear from one of you. Sky clock guys. I'm pretty mad. Tell them just translate what I said into not furious.
The professor is quite unamused at everybody's attempts to revise history and undermine the genius of medieval clerics in calculating the birth and crucifixion of our Lord, even though they have absolutely no idea how to calculate the dates as good as the clerics that they're criticizing and trying to remove from Western civilization. How's that?
That's pretty good. But I mean, what it entails is this fantasy that people in the past didn't have sophisticated calendrical knowledge. I mean, the calculation of Easter is actually really, really complicated because it's a lunar feast on a solar calendar that you have to predict every year in order to have things like the fasts of Lent.
Yes.
And so fine, Christmas is a fixed feast on December 25th. But, and this is where we get into the interminable debates about exactly why December 25th was chosen as the date for Christmas. Making me too mad. There are in the scholarship three major discussions about why December 25th is chosen for the date of Christmas. One, we recognize that Kilts is not yet celebrating it. Why not?
This is the kind of thing that I ignore. It's just sort of like, oh, okay, we're on old calendar. Cool. I'm not really into dates, so I don't like arguing over time. I mean, thank God. Otherwise, I'd be another one of these people arguing with you all about the fact that you've already
No, you'd listen to me.
We're not celebrating it until early January because you guys got it wrong, and we preserved the original tradition.
I'll go back to the Paschal calendar.
I think it's got something to do with the click over from Gregorian to Julian, or vice versa. Whatever happened there.
Yes,
also,
yes, that is why you have a different date.
Woohoo! I got it right.
Yeah.
But also, we still are using the ancient Coptic calendar, which is ancient Egyptian calendar. So we have an extra month in the year that doesn't exist in the Western calendar, which we're factoring in sometimes.
Right.
There's a 13th month. So when my abuna, he says, oh, we're about to start this month, sometimes it's going to click over into a new Coptic month, even though we're still in the middle of Western calendar month. And honestly, I don't pay attention to it much because it's for the clergy to worry about. I outsource to the people that I know better than me. And I leave it to them because they have been doing this for a very long time. But in my understanding of it, it's got to do with the crossover between the Coptic calendar cycle and the Western calendar cycle, and then our relationship between Julian and Gregorian calendars.
Right, and that adjustment, I didn't review that because, like, why would I? It's post-medieval, is because the solar and the lunar got out of sync, and you needed to adjust so that solstice actually fell on the, it's like that it's so hard calculating the calendar that it is the major reason that mathematics developed both in antiquity and throughout the Middle Ages. That it's sort of oohing and awing over the sky clock because it circulates. What it's like, predicting the return of those star systems every single year on exactly the right date. It's really hard. And what I'm showing now, this calendar of Easter tables, it's like you have to calculate according to, it's a 19-year cycle plus a 54-year cycle plus a da-da-da. I've tried to memorize it. It's I probably could do it if I was still living in my mom's basement and doing math. It is incredibly sophisticated predictive mathematics for these sorts of calendars, and they had to correct between the Julian and the Gregorian because they'd gotten out of sync over a millennium.
I think that may be why we've kept the date we've kept, because we have that extra 13th month that kind of makes that adjustment for this going out of sync between, the solar and lunar coming out of sync. I'm going to have to look at this more.
No, we should make everybody curious so you can all tell us how detailed we didn't get because we're girls. Which is fine. You should know that it's that complicated, and that all of ancient mathematics was devoted to figuring all of these structures out of time, the movement of the stars, so that we could have the appreciation of when the sun does such and such. Let's consider why December 25th is chosen, right? And there are in the literature 3 different reasons. One is called the history of religions theory, which is the Sol Invictus theory that everybody's saying is like you've chosen the date for Christmas based on when this other Roman pagan festival was held, and because the sun is a really important deity in Roman religion. It's not, but whatever. We choose the date for Christmas according to that, right? So that's the history of religions theory. Another one is the calculation theory, which is this. I actually like this one best, and one of the people that I respect most in the history of mathematics, Philip Notat, has done some nice pieces on why this actually makes sense for people to be caring about. It depends on calculating first the Easter, right, which is why I'll go back to the Easter tables, why it matters when Easter is, because it matters when you know when the first Easter was, because it matters when you know that crucifixion happened on a particular date, because then that drives the whole cycle, right? And it goes with this idea that the ancients have that, fulfillment of time happens if you die on the same day you're conceived or born, right? And so March 25th is taken as the day of the crucifixion, which then becomes the day of the conception, the Annunciation, which then calculated 9 months later becomes the date of Christmas, December 25th, and that this is simply fulfilling the sense that Christ lived a perfect number of years, or was conceived and then lived a perfect number of years and died. And this argument, the history of religion people don't like this because it doesn't make Christianity pagan, it just makes it practical or logical, right? But it does fit with the way we see ancient exegetes working. Is so they're always they're doing numerology in very symbolic ways. And to say that Christ was the perfect man, he's going to live the perfect interval, right? So he's going to die on the very same day he was conceived. That makes a great deal of exegetical sense. It makes a great deal of interpretive sense. So that's the history of calculation theory. That one is then added into this priestly service argument, which has to do with, and this is the one that I've seen most on the internet most recently, that Zacharias is serving in the temple when as high priest, which apparently he never was, but John Chrysostom apparently believed this, that Zacharias is serving in the temple when John the Baptist is conceived, and that must be in September. Elizabeth is 6 months pregnant when Mary goes to visit her, so Mary must be 6 months after Elizabeth in the conception, which makes it in March. That means John is born in the summer at the solstice, and Christ is born at the winter in the winter solstice, and you have this beautiful sort of conclusion of the year by way of these the prophet's birth and the Messiah's birth. And that one Chrysostom knows, but he's obviously he's late 4th century, so okay, fine. Now all of these depend on the fact that December 25th is now used as the date of Christmas. The catcher for all of it, for any of these theories, is the proof of when Sol Invictus was celebrated and when Christmas was celebrated on December 25th is the exact same document, which means we can't prove priority either way. We can't prove that Invictus, and it's Invictus, not Sol Invictus. We can't prove that Sol Invictus was earlier than Christmas or vice versa, because the only document that they both appear in is this so-called chronograph of 354, which of course doesn't survive except in later copies. Welcome to my world.
Okay, so we don't even have the original document. So
No.
It is possible that the Romans actually created Invictus based on the Christian celebration of Christmas.
Right.
Because there's no way of disproving it. So in fact, Christianity and Christians have potentially been celebrating Christmas on the 25th before the pagan Romans were celebrating Invictus. Wow.
Correct, right? The oldest document is this chronograph of 354. So you can argue till you're blue in the face about exactly what happened first, but you cannot prove it on the basis of the sources that we have now, which is why these multiple theories are out there, right? The history of religion one, the calculation one, the priestly service one, because they all date to the 4th century. The 4th century is going to be very important here, right? Okay.
Well, I was about to say what was going on in the 4th century.
Says, everybody, you're listening, right? Everybody always says is either it's Sol Invictus, which the proper Sol feast days were like in October. They're not even in December, right? But we do know one that's in December that everybody wants to mention, right? I'm sure you know what it is. We want, in fact, Christmas as a pagan celebration to replace. Oh wait, it's on the Saturnalia is from the 17th to the 23rd. Missed.
So they've already finished it.
They are. Okay, so one argument is always, oh, it's just the Roman Saturnalia. Well, if what you're doing as a Christian is picking a major Roman festival and you don't know when the date really was, I suggest that you should have picked March 1st because I mean, if this kind of thinking is going on, it's like we're in competition with those pagans and we need to outwit them. Mm-hmm. We need to pick the new year, which was celebrated on March 1st. And you can tell that because what month is December? If you count our numbers, what numeral do we use to designate December right now? Class, anybody? 12. What does decem mean in Latin? 10. March 1st was the new year. Guess what the 1st of March was the celebration of? The Kylans of March. The original New Year's Day when the sacred fire of Rome was renewed. Ooh, that sounds like the birth of the light, don't you think? The dancing armed priesthood of the Salii celebrated the Feriae Marti, holiday for Mars, which was also the Dies Natalis of Mars. Also the Matronalia in honor of Juno Lucina, Mars's mother. Well, that one sounds to me like a really good Christmas day. Truly, if they were going
exactly the kind of pagan holiday that you would transpose a Christian Christmas over the top of.
If you wanted the birth of the god and the celebration of his mother, March 1st.